Okay, everybody, so welcome. As you'll probably see, I'm down as Joby. I'm not actually Joby, I'm Barry. And Joby's kindly lent me his login details for tonight's webinar because unfortunately Joby's not available. And if everybody just wants to, write the name in the chat and where you're coming from, and we will make a start. As I said, my name's Barry. I've been involved in crypto I was introduced into crypto around about 2014/15. And it wasn't just Bitcoin, it was other cryptocurrencies as well. And I suppose like most people, I've had some good times, but I've also had some really bad times. With regards to my lack of due diligence, and I want people to learn from my mistakes as well as other people's mistakes as well, because it's not very nice when you're making these investments, things like that, and all of a sudden money's disappearing left, right, and centre. And it was a bit of a culture shock, and I just stopped doing crypto for a while. And when I'd done that, we had investments in the banks, and we also had, endowment policies. For those people in the, in the UK will understand what I'm on about, with mortgages for, for houses and things like that. And everything seemed to just be going wrong with the banks, certainly over in the UK. They were lying to us, they were mis-selling us insurance, where, and lots of things were coming out where we didn't really need them. And there was a big push by these very clever solicitors who found a loophole saying, well, the banks are actually been taking your money without, you really knowing and not really having to pay that extra money. And I kind of thought, the right, and there was certain other investments that just weren't making, the percentage that they were saying they're going to be doing with. So I then had a look into other back into Bitcoin, and I was contacted just before Christmas, I think, by my mentor and good friend Joby, who I've known for quite a long time. And he says, have you thought about the Bitcoin mining? And I says, well, at the time, I was into the high yield investment plans where I was just plowing money into it. And then all of a sudden, these platforms were just disappearing. And I suppose I lost confidence in it. And it's, when I realized it's not the confidence I lost in Bitcoin, it was the actual platforms that I was invested in. Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin's still here. Bitcoin ain't going away. So I kind of, start to listen to people and start doing some more research and start realizing, well, this is going to change. This is why I've started to make a main focus on the Bitcoin. So with that said, what I'm going to do is just give a quick presentation, and then I'm going to share my screen. You could just give me the thumbs up once you can see the screen, please, guys. Okay, so, Bitcoin, where did it all start from then? So, it all started back in 2008, where there was a white paper was produced, and the white paper was actually called a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And this white paper was a very technical piece of paper, and I'd encourage people who hasn't seen the white paper before is to go to www.bitcoin.org/bitcoin.pdf, I think it is. If somebody would mind putting that in the chat for me, please. And then, at the time, it's very technical and it was very high spec. But this white paper was created by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, to this day, Satoshi Nakamoto still remains anonymous. And, nobody knows whether Satoshi Nakamoto is a man, a woman, or even a group of people. And back in 2009, once the white paper was brought into fruition, a lot of people were saying, this white paper could be the biggest thing since the internet. It was very technical, but there was a lot of high-tech programs were saying, this is something really special. And then, of course, we're talking about Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was released in 2009 as an open source software. Now, for me, Bitcoin can be very techy, or it can be very simple. Now, like most people, I suppose, on the call, likes it very simple. I do as well. If you want to get into the tech side of it, then, you know, we know just the right people who can go through all the technical aspects of it. But what we want to do is just, you know, just keep it really nice and simple for you, and just so you get the idea of it. So Bitcoin, of course, was the first cryptocurrency. And yes, it is a real currency. It's just like the euro, the Great British pound, you know, the yen, the US dollar. But, you know, it's just more than money. So it is actually a global digital transaction system available to everybody. Now, I suppose everybody just needs to understand what that means, because a global digital transaction is available to everybody in the globe, across the world. We don't have that with banks. We've all got separate banks. We're going to talk about certain individuals that haven't got access to the banks. But this, everybody's got an actual access to it. And, you know, for me, it's a bit of a 3-in-1 service, so to speak, because, you know, the 3-in-1 when I look at, you've got your cash. Remember, Bitcoin is a form of cash, although it's a digital cash. It's a transaction, so, you know, just it's a payment system. So you've got things like PayPal, your banks, and, you know, Square. So you've got the payment system. But more importantly for me as well is it's the technology. So you've got your cash, your payment system, and the technology. The most important part of the technology is because that is what brings Bitcoin into circulation, which we're going to talk about a bit later on. And it's decentralized, and it's a peer-to-peer network. What decentralized means is it's not owned by any government, any person, or any individual. And peer-to-peer means it can be used from me to you. All we need to do is just go onto your Google App Store or your Apple App Store and just download an app, and then we can transfer money straight away. No credit checks, no political agendas, no race, no sex, anything like that. It's open to anybody. And it, like I said, it's the first alternative establishment to the banking system. Now, with Bitcoin, there's a limit supply of 21 million. Now, a lot of people don't know that. Now, other assets such as gold, yes, we all know gold has got a limited supply, but nobody knows what that limited supply is. Well, with Bitcoin, we do know, and it's 21 million. Now, this is great because this means we can actually calculate the future Bitcoins that's going to be coming into circulation. And Simon's going to come on a bit later on and talk a little bit just more about how many Bitcoins we've got into circulation. But, you know, how cool is that? So we can actually calculate, you know, the Bitcoins that's coming into circulation. Now, this is why the main focus of the financial institutes, the hedge funds, governments, and combined with the most influential people in the world are actually starting to take note of Bitcoin and actually starting to be part of Bitcoin. And also, it's been the best performing asset in the last 10 years. Now, that's not us just putting it on a slide. Please go away, do your own research, do your own diligence. There's some great articles on sites such as CoinGraph, things like that, which is telling you the best performing assets. It's outperforming gold, silver, you know, all your other all your other assets. And, you know, so where do we actually think Bitcoin will be in the next 10 years? Now, I'm just going to move myself out the road and put that up the top. If we just take ourselves over to the graph over on the right-hand side, and if you look over on the left, you'll see the set of numbers. Yes, it's just like a normal graph, starting from 2,500 all the way up to 22,500. And if you look along the bottom, you start from 2009, which when Bitcoin come into circulation, all the way right up to the next halving. Now, this may look a little bit complicated, but I want to keep it dead straightforward. Now, this is known as the 2x. Well, it's actually a 3x, because if you look at the first boxes, actually you'll see a little spike as well, just in between the 2013 and 14. But what I want you to pay attention to is the one in 2014 and the one in 2018. Now, what the 10x's means is just before Bitcoin become more and more or less in supply, the price actually timed itself by 10. So what that means is in 2013 and 14, you'll see that little spike. That little spike there, Bitcoin actually went in that year from $100 to $1,200. So it's, you know, it's gone up in its value of 10 times. Now, if you go straight along and following the graph along all the way up until 2017, just before, you know, the other halving, and we had that crazy period in 2017-18 where Bitcoin, you know, just plummeted through the, you know, through the roof. It actually went from $800 up to $18,000 and beyond, and slightly beyond, but it went up its value in 10 times. Now, if you have a look at of course, the graphs, they look really significant, and you would think there was a bigger jump on the second 10x. Well, it's not really, because they've only gone up themselves times 10. So, you know, that's where could we be in 10 years' time? Well, Simon's going to touch on that a bit later on you know, where the Bitcoin halving will come into place. So, with that said, sorry guys, I just need to, because I'm on Joby's and I'm not. Right, okay then, so why should we pay attention, and is it too late to get involved in Bitcoin? Well, according to a Cambridge University study, there was about 2.9 to 5.8 active Bitcoin users in the world. Now, this study was actually carried out over a year ago, and of course, more and more people start to become more active, so that, of course, may be incorrect, so it'll be slightly more than the 2.9 to the 5.8. But last year, 2018, there was 3.2 trillion transactions in Bitcoin. So what that means is 3.2 trillion transactions. Me to you, making a transfer on there, somebody buying Bitcoin, people selling Bitcoin, people buying things with Bitcoin. So 3.2 trillion in 1 year is quite a significant amount of transactions. You know, so can you be an early adopter of Bitcoin? Well, of course you can. You know, and here's the reason why. Now, let's look at it this way, because we all can be still part of the huge potential growth. The world population, approximately 8 billion people at this time. Now, there was a study carried out, I think it was at the beginning of the year or early last year, by Forbes, where they released there was actually 1.7 billion people do not have access to banks. 1.7 billion. Now, you know, that is a significant amount. And yes, we all aware a lot of these people are from the third world countries, but even I think that's even going to be getting worse, certainly in the UK, because, you know, we're seeing a lot more people in the UK losing access to banks for one thing or another. Poverty, you know, there's a lot of food banks, things like that. So that, for me, it's only going to get worse. We mentioned before, Bitcoin goes on demand and supply, and there's only going to be ever 21 million. You know, and people will say, well, you know, at this moment in time, there's 17.5 million in circulation. And people say, well, that's not going to take too long now for the rest of the Bitcoin to become in circulation. Well, that's incorrect, because all 21 million Bitcoins, without stealing Simon's thunder, will actually be coming into circulation in 2140, which, you know, I don't think any of us will be around there. So if you quickly work it out, you know, there's less than 1% of people actually involved in Bitcoin, you know, and Bitcoin's getting scarce and scarce every 4 years. What's it going to be like when 2% people are involved, 3%, 10% even, you know? So the demand is getting higher, the supply is getting less. What implications is that going to actually have on the price of Bitcoin? Well, you know, work it out yourself. If I just draw your attention to the left-hand side, where you see the different coloured bubbles, and this is just to give you a quick idea of where, you know, the potential of Bitcoin. And I'm just going to move myself out the road again. So if you have a look at the bottom, the pinky red colour, where the global debt. So the global debt is $2.247 trillion global debt. Now, if you have a look up above on the green one, The actual money in the world is 95.7 trillion. Huge gap. Where's that money gone? You know, where's it gone? Somebody's got to be accounted for it. It's got to be somewhere. You know, have a look at the stock market, 77.7 trillion market cap. Yeah. And then you've got your gold, which is 7.8 trillion market cap. You know, and then you've got Bitcoin right at the very top, little blackhead, a little spot where it's saying, you know, it's 100 billion. Now that's slightly over now with the increase of Bitcoin over the, you know, the last month or so. So I think it might be in the region of something like 120, 130 billion, give or take, in there. So, you know, but just have a look at the global debt. Where's that actually gone? So, you know, with that said, you know, we're still in the infancy of Bitcoin. Yeah. Think back to the times where the Nokia phones first come out. Everybody's guilty. We all had a Nokia phone sitting there playing snakes. What are we on now? Androids, Apples, you name it, you know, top technology. Well, Bitcoin is at the stage of the Nokia. Even though it's been gone 10 years, we're still in its infancy. So, you know, yes, we can still be an early adapter. And the most wealthiest and most influential people in the world are involved in Bitcoin. So, you know, let's just have a look at that. So firstly, have a look at Tim Draper. And again, please go out and do your own due diligence. Look up these guys. It's not us just, you know, plucking names out of a hat. Tim Draper, arguably the biggest ventureless capitalist, you know, in the world. He's actually, in fact, Tim Draper was an early investor in Yahoo, Skype, Uber, and he's predicting Bitcoin by 2022 will go to 250K. Wow. Now, I do believe, and I'm sure Michael might be able to quote me on this when he comes on, he was only about a week or so out of the last prediction on when he predicted Bitcoin was going to go reach the 18 grand mark, and he was only a few days out there. Wencas Casares, the guy in the middle, he's the board of director of PayPal. Now, you would expect Wencas Casares to know a little bit about money and finance. Well, of course you would, because he's actually coming out and said one Bitcoin is going to be worth $1 million. Wow. You know, and who are we to, you know, to argue with these guys? But go out and follow these guys. Check them out. Jack Dorsey, co-founder of Twitter. And he's the, you know, he's also the founder of Square, which is an alternative payment system such as PayPal. Now, Jack Dorsey's a big advocate. For those people on Twitter, I encourage you to go and follow Jack Dorsey, because he's making the right noises about Bitcoin. And he come out and stated the world ultimately will have one single currency. The internet will have one single currency, and he personally believes that'll be Bitcoin. You know, so that's Jack Dorsey. So what I want to do is just go back to here and just have a look. And so why should you pay attention, or why should we care about Bitcoin? Just to wrap up. Well, the most influential people in the world are investing in Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's debt-free, and it's a limited supply. It's a finite supply, and it's designed to be inflation-proof. Bitcoin, you know, it's unhackable. We'll not talk about the technical aspects of it, and we'll go into some more training and more technical parts of the blockchain, how the blockchain works in further training. But Bitcoin is actually unhackable, and it possibly is the biggest financial revolution we may ever see in our lifetime. Remember, it's a global transaction, you know, so we may never ever see this again. It's not tied to any banks, it's not tied to any governments, and we, as holders of Bitcoin, run Bitcoin peer-to-peer. Yeah, and it saves on transaction fees, and it's got an instantaneous transaction. Now, again, on future webinars, we'll actually start doing some live transactions, because I can sit here now on my cell phone and send Michael some money over in Denmark, with a click of the button, and he'll receive it. But we'll show you that a bit later on, and that will happen. So it does save on transaction fees, and it's instant. And Bitcoin is becoming more scarce every 10 minutes. So yes, we can be an early adopter of it, and we can still be part of the growth. Now, that's it for me now, guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just stop sharing my screen. Come on, just bear with me. Stop sharing. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand you over to one of the most influential educators in Bitcoin, in Michael. Now, I've had conversations with Michael over the past months, and I actually had the pleasure of meeting Michael over in Marbella on one of our Bitcoin events, and it was a great pleasure, and I learned so much from Michael. And it's an honor to say, he's a really good friend of mine now, and we do stay in touch. So, I'm going to hand over to Michael, and Michael's just going to go over just how you can start, making money with Bitcoin and how you can become involved. So over to you, Michael, my friend.
Thank you, Barry. It's a pleasure to be on with you guys. As you mentioned, I'm here in Denmark, and I've been a part of a BitJob network now for about 2.5 years. I started back in late 2017, in October, and I was fortunate enough to be in the last part of the last bull run. And as we all know, when we crossed the year from 17 to 18, something happened with the market, and we had a bear market in almost all of 18. So I was fortunate enough to see the power of mining in just 3 months, and then it just went away for about 12 months. But it's back now. We can see it's picking up. We have seen in all of 18 that we have been down to something like 12.5, 12.6 Bitcoin per block. 12.5 is the actual reward, and 12.6, then we have a bit of transaction fees on it. So how are you going to make money in Bitcoin? Well, you can do one of 3 things, or you could do all 3 things. But you can start with buy and hold. This is what the most people do to begin with, just to get a feel of what this is. So they buy some Bitcoin and they hold it. And that's a good solution for a lot of people, because that means they're not exposed to anything. They just have it in their wallet. Of course, there are some security issues they need to be aware of, how to store the coins and how to transact with the coins. But in general, it's very simple. And we have heard a lot of stories that people lose their money, lose their coins, and Bitcoin is hacked and all that. That's not true, not at all, because it's not Bitcoin that's going to get hacked. What is going to get hacked is all the exchanges out there, because their security level is so low that they don't, what should we say, look at it as something they need to be aware of, or they haven't in the past. Now they have become more and more aware that this is some issue they need to take care of, because the hackers want the coins because there's value in the coins. So they need to be more secure for the future. But it's not Bitcoin that's hacked. So let's just put that story to bed, because Bitcoin can't be hacked. And if you store it in your own wallet, either off-chain or on-chain, that's up to you. But when you have it with you in your wallet, it can't be hacked. So, but anybody can help you with this, and that's part of the things that we do in the crypto group, that is educate people how to handle Bitcoin. Now, the next thing that you can do is trade Bitcoin, and you can do that in several different exchanges throughout the world. Actually, right now is 18,000 markets that you can exchange the Bitcoin or trade back and forth between the coins in cryptocurrency. But to be able to trade, you need to get in through Bitcoin. That's the only coin that the exchanges accept as a startup payment, except if you have one of the other cryptocurrencies. And to buy them is a bit difficult in many situations. So Bitcoin is the way into the crypto market, more or less. And just to help you a little bit, Barry, with the slide you had before, with all the dots and the gold and so forth. Today, right now, the market cap of Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in total is $275 billion. So it has increased a lot over the past month because of the price increase in Bitcoin. So trading is something you can do, but you need to be aware that this market moves 24/7. You can't go to sleep and think that, okay, I'll just stay in bed until tomorrow and nothing happens. We have seen several times now throughout the past month that Bitcoin have jumped from $500 to $600 to $700 during the night. And this is crazy, and this is what happens. It can go easily the other way as well. So the coins are moving fast, and you need to have a lot of ice in your stomach if you're gonna do the trading, because it's a numbers game. And if you're not skilled in normal trading with stocks and commodities, futures and things like that, don't try crypto, because you need to be a lot more on your toes to really hit that market on the right and make a profit. Now, the last thing you can do is mining, as Barry has mentioned. Mining is what is the most secure and with the lesser risk than the other two, because when you buy and hold, you have a certain amount of Bitcoin in your wallet, and let's just say you buy 1.7 Bitcoin, which is the average package that we sell these days. So you have 1.7 Bitcoin in your account. If you make this as an investment, you will do this for a time period of 4, 5, 6, 10 years maybe. So let's just take an average and say you hold that for 5 years. Then in 5 years' time, there will still only be 1.7 Bitcoin. You might have a value increase on these 1.7, but you won't have any more in the volume. Now, if you put the same amount into Bitcoin mining, then you had the opportunity to buy in some shares, and probably if you buy with the setup we do right now, you will have something like 4 of a thing called founder pools. I think either Simon or Barry will come back to that after me, but 4 founder pools that is mining constantly. And if you set it to 100% accumulation over the next 5 years, then you would probably have a lot more Bitcoin in your account than the 1.7 Bitcoin you have with just buy and hold. So we can't estimate, we can't guess, we can't predict anything about the future. We can only look at the historical data we have and say, this is how we can do it, and this is what we can do. For up to 2018, up till 2018 began, we had an average for the previous 36 months of 7.98% in profit each month. That means that you actually, if you were mining in that period, you would in 13 months more or less have made back what you invested. Not that you took it out, but you could have made it back in 13 months. And in mining, when you do that, it's a contract for 1,000 days. So that's 2.7 years that you mine for. So this means that you will actually have 1.4 years more to mine before the contract ran out. So you can more or less, at that point of time, double your money, more or less. Now, 2018 showed us that not everything goes just up and up and up and up. So we went down, and this gave us an average for the past 36 months. We're down to 2% each month in historical data. So this is still a profit of 24% a year, and that's very good in any kind of investment. And you can say that you can do better in stocks, yes, for a shorter period of time you can, but they will eventually also take a dive. We had one that took a dive just 2 months ago. She lost more or less $1 million on her accounts, and she was ready to go into mining because she didn't want to have that to happen once more. And with the educational tools that we gave her and all the information, and as Barry have said, do your own due diligence, do your own research. She did, and she came back to us and said, this looks much more secure than what I'm doing with stocks right now. And with lesser fees. She pays an advisor to help her with this, and he takes a percentage of her profit as well. So with this, she could just have it passively and do nothing about it. So that was an upside for her. Now, why should you then mine? Why should you get into Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin and mining have been the best performing asset for the past 10 years. And there's actually people out there, I can't remember the company name, but there's investment company in the US that have put a bet on the table saying that they will offer $1 million to whoever makes a better investment than Bitcoin for the next 10 years. Anyone who can come up with something that is much better to invest in than Bitcoin for the next 10 years, they will have the bet. They will take the one side, and of course the other one will take the other side. Nobody, it has been there for a couple of years now. Nobody has taken this bet now, not yet. And what is interesting is there's a lot of talk. We have a lot of influential people in the States and in the UK and the EU that is saying that Bitcoin is a scam, it's not going to happen, and everything else is better. But none of them have taken up the bet. None of them can put action behind the words they're saying. Bitcoin have done it for the past 10 years. It's been killed 200 times, but it's still here, and it's still growing. We had a peak in 2017, no doubt. That was media run, really a media bull run, because they began to talk positively about it. And then the small retail investors got in and thought, oh, this is going to be great. And those that got in too late, I would say in December, they were in at a price of $10, $12, $15,000. They got hit, and they got hit bad in 18 because we went to a fifth of the price when they got in. And that was brutal for them. Some of them got rid of the Bitcoin, and some have still ice in the stomach and have gained some of the loss now. The only time that you're going to lose on Bitcoin is if you realize in a matter and a time where you will lose on it. If you keep it, you will not lose on Bitcoin. And as Barry have mentioned, there is so much in the world that is speaking for Bitcoin. We have these people that's unbanked. We have 30 million millionaires in the world. This is dollar millionaires, and they're getting scared right now because the dollar is not that solid as it has been. So they need to find something else to store the value in. We have a transaction system that is global. In Denmark, we have the same transaction system, but it's local. It's only for Denmark, and we have had that for about 5-6 years now. I'm talking about Bitcoin here in Denmark as this payment system. We call it mobile pay. Bitcoin is mobile pay on EPO. That is my prediction today, because I can sit here and send money to Barry. I can send them to South Africa. I can send them to Australia, and then like this at the receiver's account. Nothing else can do that in the world right now, and it's not going to happen with any other of the coins out there. That's going to be decentralized. So nobody owns it, nobody controls it. Nobody can put even more on it. As Barry mentioned, it's inflation proof because of the scarcity in it. And another thing, you don't have to own a whole Bitcoin to be in with this. You can own a partial of a Bitcoin. Actually, the lower value is Satoshi. And in each Bitcoin, there is 100 million Satoshis. So we have 210 billion fractions of Bitcoin. And this is incredible because that means that we can use it on our everyday trade, on our everyday purchase. If it's gas, if it's groceries, whatever, it can be used anywhere. But what you need to focus on right now is, are you going to be somebody who has Bitcoin in your account when this is going nuts? Because it's going to go nuts. When? We don't know. Actually, there was one guy telling or making a survey. It was that if you in 10 years were holding 0.28 Bitcoin, you were wealthy. You would be wealthy. Now, why not make 0.28 Bitcoin every year the next 10 years? Barry, that was it for me. Thank you for having me on. You are a great leader and inspirational and very, very good at this webinars. I'm looking forward to be on another time.
Well, Michael, thank you very much. Very powerful as normal, and you know, I hope people actually gained a lot of value from that. I certainly did. You know, it just sums up where Bitcoin's going. You know, I suppose. So, Michael, thank you very, very much, and you know, it's been an honour to have you on this webinar, and hopefully we can have you on a few more of our webinars. What I'd like to do now is just hand you over to another top educator, this time from another side of the world, over in Spain, in Simon. Again, I had the great pleasure of spending, you know, Simon's company over in our Bitcoin events in Marbella. So without further ado, Simon, I'll just unmute you. If you wouldn't mind just, you know, telling people your story, why you got involved in Bitcoin, and you know, why should people start getting excited about Bitcoin and leading up to this historical event that is happening May next year, that happens every 4 years. Can you just tell people what, you know, a little bit about that? So over to you, Michael. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Yeah, nice introduction. So hello, everyone. Just wanted to say a little bit about me first. I've been living in Spain for over 20 years. Yeah, I used to be a bit of a hippie backpacker and just moving around, traveling around the world without many cares. And I kind of wasn't part, I didn't feel part of society. I wanted to, I was anti everything, anti technology. And I would, you know, I was happy just to go and live in a tree somewhere, be one with nature. But finally I realized that I needed to accept like the rules of society, and I needed to move forward and embrace the kind of technology that was moving society forward, hopefully to create a better world. And I made a decision to learn about technology and to have a better relationship with money, because previously I'd like shunned the whole capitalist system. Thanks to being open to the technology, I came across Bitcoin. My radar was up, and I was ready to learn about Bitcoin. Actually, as Michael was talking about earlier, just now, I got involved at that time when the price of Bitcoin was suddenly going up really, really fast. That's something that got my attention. I thought, get rich quick, that's what I need. And of course, I watched my first investment, small investment, double in price very quickly. And I was like amazed. And then I started to do what Michael was talking about, this trading thing. And I got involved with some other cryptocurrencies. And I thought this was great. And suddenly everything just fell down. And I was left like in worse position than I had been when I got involved. But I decided to stick around. And I looked into the what was behind Bitcoin. Why was it going up in value so much? And I learned the fundamentals that it was a technology which would revolutionize finance. And although it had a bubble and the bubble had burst, what was behind it was really interesting. Well, without wanting to get too technical, because once you get involved in this world, it's like going down the rabbit hole, and suddenly there's a whole lot of new stuff that you can learn about. So as Barry said earlier, that anyone that wants to get involved in this, really it's important to go and do your due diligence and have a look at, there's a lot of information, and learn about it, because it's very interesting depending on your cup, what you like. But I'm into this techie stuff. Well, lucky for me, I met up with the guys from the crypto group, and I learned about mining and how this was a safe and secure way of accumulating Bitcoin, and I'm really ready to accumulate more Bitcoin. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, as we've talked about, the price of Bitcoin is increasing, and we touched on the reason the price of Bitcoin is increasing, being that this scarcity factor. Now, a few numbers have been thrown around in this webinar. So I think Barry said early on that the final number of Bitcoin available will be 21 million. But that's, as Barry said, that won't be the case until 2140. That's 120 years away. There will have been 21 million Bitcoins created. Currently, there have been just under 18 million Bitcoins created, but there's an estimation that 3 or 4 million of those Bitcoins have been lost. In the early days, people weren't very careful with certain elements of this technology, like the private keys, and they've mislaid private keys. They've thrown away old laptops which had a load of Bitcoins on it, because in the early days, they didn't think it had any value. So we're looking at an even scarcer number than the numbers that officially are out there. Now, Barry was talking about this halvening phenomenon, which is happening in just under a year, next May. What he's talking about is that currently the mining process, what it does is it verifies all the transactions, and in doing so, it creates new Bitcoins. Okay, that's the reward for the mining. That's why we, as miners, we can earn Bitcoins as we mine every day. Every day there are 1,800 Bitcoins available to, they're created, sorry. Every 24 hours, 1,800 new Bitcoins are created. That's approximately 12.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. But what happens, and it's a very clever element of the technology of the program, is that every 4 years, approximately, as Barry said, this amount of Bitcoin that is released is cut in half. Okay, so when we started, there were 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. 4 years later, there were 25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. Currently, we're on 12.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. And as from May 2020, there will be 6.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. That's 900 Bitcoins available every day. So between now and next May, we have the opportunity to accumulate more Bitcoin. And now is really a good time to get involved with mining. And that's another reason for some of the comments that Michael said earlier. Big business, big money is getting involved in Bitcoin because they see it as a store of value. These millionaires who want to put their fiat money aside, they want to put it into a place which is safe. It's not going to lose its value. As we know, the fiat money, the dollars and euros and pounds, they're losing value every year. They lose 2% approximately of their value. With Bitcoin, it's a sound money. It's what's called sound money. and which means that you can't just produce it willy-nilly the way the central banks can produce fiat money, which what gives it some of its value. So yeah, basically it's that the scarcity, as well as all the other elements that we've talked about, the fact that the government can't stop you from using it, that you don't need permission from anyone to use it, that you can take it across borders, no one's going to stop you. It's got a lot of very positive elements. It's like gold, but better, and it's divisible. You can't take a bar of gold into a shop and just scratch off a couple of dollars worth, but with Bitcoin you can. Anyway, so that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I didn't want to get too technical. I don't know if anyone has any more questions or anything, any comments, Barry?
I don't dare say. I think you've summed up everything there excellently.
That's good.
Has anybody got any other questions? I see Angelina's asking a few questions there. Thanks, Patrick. So some great explanations on the questions there. Does anybody else have any other questions? No. So I think you summed up that really well, and I think you're a great inspiration for people, and also like yourself and Patrick are great leaders, great educators over there in Spain, and I just think all people have getting value from today, and in particular, I know if you're going to be sending this out to your prospects and things like that who maybe couldn't make the call, just get back to the person who invited you or showed you this, and will help you, because it's a great point what Simon was saying there. Almost 3 million coins gone deficient, gone missing, by lack of negligence, and things are technical. Michael talked about, it can't be hacked. Well, of course it can't, but you still can lose it. It's been proven by losing, by certain crypto keys and things like that. And this is where the people who are on the call can help people get started. We can actually coach you. We've been there. So please, don't try and go and do it yourself. Get back to the person who's invited you on this call or who shared the replay of the webinar with you. And, we can help everybody. That's what it's about. We are the crypto group. We've got people from all over the globe now. So, it's what it's about. Start helping people. That's it for me, guys. If anybody's got no more questions, what I would like you to do is, just finish off. Everybody just unmute yourself and, just say ta-ra to everybody, and then, we'll call it a night or an evening, wherever you may be.
Thanks, everyone. Great call. Great sharing. Thank you.
Excellent. Well done, Baz. Sorry, I've got an old laptop, so you can't see my face. But well done, Baz. Thank you very much for that. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Just as well anyway, Reg. You'd scare people.
I know. I'm covered in sawdust, mate. I've been bloody working. I've been doing bloody stuff in the yard. So you give us a last minute notification that was on tonight, and I've come shooting in now, so I'm sitting up in naffs, more or less. Thank you very much, so.
No worries. Thanks for coming on.
Nice to meet everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for hosting this, Barry. Good content there from you and from Michael. So, yeah, thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, thanks to both of you. It was great being on, Barry. And anytime you want help again or want anything else, just let us know.
Will do. Appreciate it, guys, and that's what it's all about. Let's just help people and get people started, and and pass on our experience where we've went wrong in the past, and get them up and running. If that's it, then, guys. So thank you very much for your participation. I really do appreciate your time. I hope you've getting some value from it, and then we'll be planning another one maybe next week. So we'll get in the chat. So please share the video. I'll drop the replay and all the chats and the Facebook group so you can share it with your people and other prospects. And have a good evening.
Cheers, Barry. Thank you. You too.
You too, Barry.